Hey, look, Oliver, it's one of your VWs. Nein, Alex, es ist nicht ein VW, es ist ein VW.
Not the best time of day to try and record this, particularly being as it's 10 past 6 in the morning. However, I just want to make you aware that I've now got a full tank of diesel, which is over here. My trip computer is sat on 875.5, and the current estimated range is 590 off of a full tank. So I'm going to spend the next week or two, probably 2 weeks, driving around on this tank of fuel. I shouldn't use enough for me to have to fill up again before then. And it's just going to be local, pretty much local trips. There'll be one or two slight short journeys, but I'm talking no more than maybe 20 minutes on the dual carriageway. So we're not talking about long motorway miles. And it's interesting to know, driving around town in a diesel, what is the MPG actually like? Because they say that they're nowhere near as efficient, which is fair enough. But it would be interesting to know what the output would be after that period of time. So I'll get back to you as the week progresses. Right, you join me a week later from the last clip that you saw, where what I was going to do is drive the Passat around for a week or two. It's been a week now, and all I've done is my usual commutes from home to work or home to the train station car park, because exciting life, and then just standard running around, you know, where you got to go to the shops or you got to take the kids to school or something like that. And essentially, if I turn the camera around now, you'll see that I've used just about 3/8, which FYI, I don't know why the petrol gauge is in the form of eighths, but yeah, I've used 3/8 of ye old petrol. Maybe it's because it's in gallons. No, because everything's done in litres. I don't know why it's like that. That's not the point. And you can see miles wise. Now originally, I believe my predicted range was 575, 585, something like that. You'd have seen it literally a minute ago. So whatever it was there, if I can do, I'll pop it on the screen what it was. But I'm now at 410 miles worth of range. Trip computer says 1091.3. So essentially I've driven just over 200 miles. It's gone up a little bit, so I must have clearly been more efficient this time on that amount of petrol. So 200 miles, 1 week. Let's see what this next week has to give me, or how many miles I'll do then. And then what I'll do is I'll head back to Tesco's and fill it full of the finest supermarket diesel, which I'm sure individuals are like, well, why don't you use Shell or something like that? I don't want to, because normal people use supermarket fuel, and this is a normal person car. So I'm just going to put normal person diesel in it. So yeah. Right, I'll see you in the next clip, which is probably going to be in a week's time, when I'm telling you how many miles I've done and yeah, how much it's cost me. And I suppose we'll work out then what the MPG figures are for that particular urban. Is it classed as urban, extra urban, whatever it is, the version where you just drive around. See you in a bit. Hello, it's now been 2 weeks since I started my Let's Drive Around MPG local, see how much money it's going to cost if you just drive short distances in a diesel to see how efficient they are challenge. Currently at the moment I'm sat in the range car park because I need to go buy myself some photo frames to finish my picture collage, because it's doing things like that I secretly love. I don't know, it's arts and crafts in it. It looks nice with the kids' pictures up. But anyway, I haven't filled the tank up just yet, because what I'm actually going to do this afternoon is I have to go and drive to Gatwick Airport, which is around about 2.5 hours away, to pick up the father-in-law, brother-in-law and auntie-in-law, I think that's how you'd put it. Pick them up and then bring them back to Peterborough. So I'm going to do around about 5 hours worth of driving, which mile wise I think is going to be 200 and something, couldn't tell you what. So I figured, well, it was all part of the planning originally. It's really good that I can do my local driving now, so that I can work out how many MPGs I've used over the 2 weeks just driving local versus what it would be like on a long run. But what I will do just before I do fill up is I will turn this camera around. Right, and now we're turned around, you can see that I'm currently at 1,372.5, which means I've done almost 500 miles to a tank. Almost 500 miles in the last 2 weeks, and then I'm left with around about a quarter of a tank. I've still got a little bit more quote-unquote local driving to do before I need to go fill up for the big trip down to Gatwick Airport. But as it stands at the moment, I'm looking at 3/4 of a tank, 500 miles, with the left range being 125 miles, which means to a, I believe it's 70 litre tank, which I will ensure that this is correct at the moment. So what would that be? What's 3/4 of 70? 45-ish, 47.5 litres, 47.5 litres I think it is, 50 litres, something like that. You can get, to be fair, a reasonable amount of range out of it, but I will give you the correct MPG figures in a moment. And then once I've done that, we might as well see what the MPGs are going to be like driving to Gatwick as well, and just see how much more efficient a diesel vehicle is. So I'll speak to you guys in a second, and I'll give you the first half of the results, and then we'll check out some driving down various motorway roads, particularly the A1, and a little tickle on the M25, because as we all know, that's Britain's favourite road. See you there. I'm going to continue on with this poor sound quality theme for the moment, because I still don't have my lavender mic. But what I need to do is inform everybody, or inform you all should I say, of what the figures are for my 2 weeks of driving around and what the true MPG is. So I drove around for 2 weeks, as you know, and from filling up the tank to filling up the tank again, I used 55.74 litres of diesel. Fair enough? Which works out as 12.26 imperial gallons. Bearing in mind, imperial gallons, British gallons, because they're slightly different from US gallons. The odometer reading started on 875.5 and we finished on 1,390.5. The total miles travelled were 515, which meant when you work out the true MPG of quite local driving, that was 42 miles per gallon, which when you compare that to VW's WLTP range, which they would have calculated out between 2017 and 2019, they gave an estimated range between 47.9 MPG and 51.4 MPG. And just for comparison, because this particular model and engine came out when they were still using the original NEDC ranges, they stated that the extra urban, so local driving with a lot of stop starting, would be 50.4 MPG. So there's already a discrepancy between their worst performing local driving versus the WLTP range, which basically meant that using 42 MPG in the real world meant that I sat 5.9 miles below the WLTP lower bracket, which was 12.3% lower than the minimum. And then there was 8.4 MPGs lower than the NEDC range, which was 16.6% below the amount, which only goes to show that the NEDC ranges are wildly different to the WLP range. There's a big percentage discrepancy here. However, this isn't the full story. We need to see what it's going to be like doing a long drive. So I guess let's go to Gatwick Airport and find out what the MPG is going to be like on a steady run over a certain amount of miles. Join me 30 seconds after I've just filled up with diesel. I'll rotate the camera around so you can see. Here we are. So I've now got a full tank again. I'm coming up with 1,390.5 miles, which is up from the 875 point something. I'll double check the exact amount of distance that I travelled in a moment. I've now got 605 estimated miles worth of range, and during this 2 weeks and this 515-ish miles that I've driven, I used 55.74 litres, which FYI was, I've just paid £1.40.9 per litre, so good value for money I suppose, which has totally cost me £78.54p. I'll work out how much it is, and after this I'll be doing my long old drive. So basically the goal is, I've just come and filled up with diesel. I'm going to drive home, and then from home I'm going to go to Gatwick Airport, pick everybody up, and then drive everybody back. So that's 3 people plus carry-on, so it's heavier on the way back. And the reason why I'm okay with this is because one of the passengers actually lives not too far away from where my actual house is, so I'll drop her off, pop at home just for 2 seconds, and then just so I've done the mileage, and then drive back to the petrol station and pick up the last amount of diesel. And then once I've done that, it should have been sort of like a good amount of mileage, and hopefully by then I'll be able to work out what the MPG is of that 200 odd length worth of trip. So I suppose I'll catch you guys in a minute when I'm heading off to drive to Gatwick. So I'm just about to head off now to Gatwick Airport. It is 138 miles there, 138 miles back. So what's that make? 276 miles that I've got to drive. Current range 615, full tank diesel, and now 1398.7, although I'm going to count it from the 1390.5. And the reason for that is because once I've dropped everybody off, I'm going to come home just so that I've driven home and then drive back to the station. I mean, I suppose I don't have to do that, but I'm going to do that. And then that should stipulate that sort of like those long journeys. And we'll see what the economy's like, which I think is going to be quite interesting. So I don't think I'll be discussing too much while I'm on this drive, because while I'm going up there, there's nothing to see but motorways and dual carriageways, and me paying some money at the Dartford crossing, which I think is done automatically now, because I'm sure I registered last year. I think I might check that just before I go, because I do not want to be getting a charge for the Dart charge, which I'm sure is like £1.80 or £2.80. And I'll probably speak to you once I get to Gatwick just to say how long it's been, see where my diesel gauge is at, and then I'll speak to you again once I fill up with diesel. And then after that, we'll do the breakdown of costs for what the driving around for 2 weeks locally was like, and then what this long journey was like. So cool, I'll see you at Gatwick, I guess. Right, you join me at 5:10, so it's taken me about 2 hours and 40 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes to drive here. Total journey of 138 miles or so like that. Traffic, not too bad. M25, what did they have? 50 mile an hour zone, which to be fair is all right, because the plane was supposed to land at 5, so I'd be collecting everybody about 5:30, 6 o'clock, but apparently now the plane's going to land at 6:30, I'm assuming because it got stuck in the air somewhere. However, this is one of the interesting things. Let me just turn my camera around and I'll show you what the facts and figures are. Right, 1,535.4 on the trip. I've used an eighth, or just over an eighth of a tank. I've now got a range of 640 miles, so I'd just like to say that the last 140 miles that I've done, I've actually made 25 miles back, or 15 miles back, so this drive has been free. That's how I'm classing it. So yeah, to be fair to it, I quite enjoyed the drive. All I got to do now is sit around. Hopefully there's a Leon. I quite like the things there, and because of the amount of time that I'm going to have to wait, it's going to cost me £23.40 for about 4 hours worth of parking. Not going to lie, I understand space is at a premium, but that's mental. That's some ridiculous level parking cost. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to go have a little wander around Gatwick Airport, just have a look at some stuff, try and kill a little bit of time, listen to some music in the car, go for a wee, because I need a wee, and grab something to eat, hopefully at a Leon if they've got one here. Otherwise, I'll be repping it up in the UK's most expensive store, as we all know, is W.H. Smith's, where it costs like £1 million for a bottle of water. Cool. So I'm going to go grab everybody. You probably won't hear back from me until, I suppose, the next scene will be me back near home, either filling up or about to fill up. You'll see in around about 2 seconds. So I'll see in about 2 seconds, yeah? Right, I've just got myself back to Tesco's after my after my return trip from Gatwick Airport. I'm rather quite tired. It is 11. If I rotate the old camera around, we can see that we're on 1,678.7 miles, and I've used 3/8, or just about 3/8 worth of diesel, with an estimated range left of 455 miles. So I'm just going to quickly top her up and then see how many litres it takes to top it up and what the estimated range is. Okay, so I'm back up to full. As you can see here, it is up to full. There we go. And it's giving me an estimated range of 695, which I actually think I can drive further than that. I believe 695 is probably the maximum that the range calculator goes up to. I don't think it goes any higher than that. However, so you're aware, I've put in 24.83 litres worth of diesel, still at the princely sum of £1.40.9, which has come to £34.99p. Oh, fun times. And I gained 12 Tesco points with this. Happy days. So technically driving to and from Gatwick has cost just shy, a penny shy of £35 to do that, not including parking, just in diesel costs. I'm not going to tell you how things are right now. I'm going to tell you in a moment because I am far too tired to work it out. So I will return to you in the morning. I am much more awake, and I'll give you all the figures of what it was for those 2 weeks of running around town and for doing a long trip using the diesel car. So I guess I'll see you in the morning for me. See you then. Now, it's the morning as opposed to the evening or the night when I finished coming back from Gatwick Airport. Apparently I'm still tired while trying to communicate any of this stuff across to you. However, I've got my facts and figures now. So I used 24.83 litres worth of diesel, which equated to 5.46 imperial gallons because, as I said before, Britain, imperial gallons. The odometer start reading was 1,390.5, and when I'd returned from my trip to Gatwick, it was 1,678.7, which meant that the total distance travelled was 288.2 miles. So that was going from, what would it be, petrol station, my house, Gatwick, dropping everybody off, my house, petrol station, or diesel station if you want to say it like that. So when working out the MPG, that meant that the overall MPG was 52.78, which when you compare that to the VW WLTP range of 47.9 to 51.4 MPG, it was actually slightly better than what the WLTP range suggested. However, when VW originally did this, they used the NEDC range calculator, and that had come up as 64.2 MPG, which goes to show that using the WLTP factor, I managed to achieve 2.68% better fuel economy than what was calculated out. However, if you use the old system, which worked out as around about 11.4 miles less than what they suggested, meant that it was a 17.78% decrease in what was suggested, which in the real world, just utilising these full numbers, because we want to look at not just long commutes and short driving, because I suppose a lot of the time people do a mixture of the both, some more than others. So if I now compare the WLTP range that I worked out, or rather the real world range that I worked out of local driving, which was 42 miles per gallon, and I look at the 52.78 miles per gallon which I got from doing this long run, if I take an average of the two, that comes back at 47.39. I know I'm throwing out loads of numbers, but trust me, it'll all come clear in a minute. So the average of the long drive and the 2 weeks worth of local driving is 47.39. Okay, if I compare that to the lower amount on WLTP, which was 47.9, that goes to show that my average across both of these metrics is actually 1% less efficient than what the WLTP acclaimed minimum range states. Which, to be fair, when you compare those two, actually doesn't look too bad. However, this was a median number, or the average, not a median number, it was the average of the two. So if you look at the average of the WLTP range, which was 47.9 to 51.4, that comes back at, what would that be? Gonna have to work that out. Look at that amazing editing skills. You never would have known that I just had to pause to work that out because I hadn't wrote it down. As I was saying, the average of the WLTP ranges actually comes out at 49.65, which when you compare that to the average I've just got from my real world range of 47.39, there is a difference of, I've wrote it down here, 4.55%. So less than 5% discrepancy between the averages. Now, if we go back and we look at the NEDC average, you'll actually find that there is a 17.29% discrepancy between what the NEDC average across urban, extra-urban and combined would be versus my real-world example. So it really does go to show that NEDC was a terrible, terrible way to measure fuel efficiency. It made everything look really, really good when it really, really weren't. Whereas WLTP actually is quite a reasonable way, or it's a closer metric than using NEDC. The only thing is though, despite it being a closer metric, it still is, when you do it real world, or at least from bearing in mind my test conditions are me driving in the real world, it still falls on the negative side of what the manufacturer suggests, or I suppose the EU, because it's an EU standard, I think it is, which is not beneficial so much to the customer. However, it's probably more beneficial to the manufacturer because it makes their cars look better. This is probably why we get such wildly inaccurate claims with plug-in hybrids and I suppose just generally hybrids and then EVs at the same time. But the crux of it all, to summarise everything, in the real world, I got 42 miles per gallon driving locally, when VW suggests it's probably around about 47, 48 miles per gallon. So there's a negative. On a long journey, on the other hand, in the real world, I got 52.7, whereas VW says it's about 51.4. So in the real world, you get better MPGs. The MPGs are much, much better when driving, I suppose, a diesel vehicle on a long, pretty much uninterrupted run. There was some stops because there had to be stops, particularly as there and then I guess the engine's cooled down and got to get warm again, so there would be some MPGs lost at that point. 'Tis the way that it is. However, ultimately, I suppose WLTP, we've accidentally found that WLTP is a much better system than NEDC, and we've also found out that the cars are reasonably efficient. Now, it's going to be good to do, obviously, these tests again utilising petrol cars, probably not on the same sort of runs because it's just local driving that I'm doing testing, and that's my intention to do it with my partner's Kadjar, because at the end of the day, that's a petrol vehicle. There's a lot more local driving, and I suppose one nice long run would be good as well. Yeah, I found this interesting. It's a lot of facts and figures, a lot of numbers. I'll put some information, hopefully there would have been some information on the screen, hence the reason why I've sat slightly crocked to the side. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you do enjoy these videos, please give me a like. I'd love some more subscribers. Please put a comment down if there's any information that you think would be worthwhile doing. If you feel that there was any flaws within my experimentation, please let me know, because it will be good to whittle these things down so that we can try and keep them as consistent as possible. With regards to the fuel quality, just normal diesel, because you can't really get, I think it was only Shell that really used to do V-powered diesel, but everywhere just does normal diesel for their cars. It would be good to see a few other vehicles, what their MPGs are like, and I suppose accidentally what we found is a comparison between two metrics, one being wildly inaccurate and one being under accurate, but to a far less severity. But yeah, no, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed doing the drives. I may have sounded a bit tired on the last one, but I do quite enjoy doing the drives. Once again, apologies about the sound quality. Once I get a new mic, I'll have that set up so that at least you can hear me a bit better. It's a little less tinny, as opposed to the microphones that are just coming off my phone. Please, like I say, like, subscribe, give us a comment, and I hope to see you guys for the next one. Thank you ever so much for continuing to watch if you've got here, and yeah, have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.